This is the story of Princess Latifa. Born into one of the most powerful families in the world, she had everything money could buy, but the one thing she could never have was freedom. Watched constantly, her every move controlled, her voice silenced, Latifa's world was limited to what her father allowed. Her dreams were crushed, and her desires ignored. As she grew older, she began to crave the one thing that seemed so simple, yet was always out of reach: freedom. And when the longing grew too strong to ignore, she made a choice to risk everything, even her life, to escape. In 2018, the world watched in horror as Latifa made headlines trying to escape her life in Dubai. She wasn't running from poverty, war, or hardship. She was running from her father, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid al Maktoum. She was running from the iron grip of her own father, a man whose love had turned to control, whose protection had become a prison. So what drives a princess, someone who seems to have it all, to risk her life just to be free? Keep watching to find out. But before we go on, remember to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our content. All set? Let's get right into it. From the moment Princess Latifa was born, she was surrounded by unimaginable wealth. Palaces with gold-tipped gates, lavish parties, and every luxury you could dream of were part of her everyday life. To the outside world, it seemed like the perfect fairy tale, but behind all that luxury, there was a different story unfolding, one that only Latifa knew. As a child, she wasn't just taught how to behave like a royal, she was trained to conform. Every smile, every gesture was carefully monitored. She grew up with the understanding that her life was not her own. It belonged to the royal family and, most of all, to her father. From a young age, she was made to feel like an object, not a person. She couldn't decide what she wanted to study, where she wanted to go, or even who she wanted to be. While most children were allowed to run free, explore their interests, and make mistakes, Latifa's childhood was defined by restrictions. She wasn't even allowed to make friends outside of the family's inner circle, and even within the palace, she often felt like an outsider. Everything was dictated by her father and the royal family, all under the pretense of protecting her. But in truth, they were preserving the image of control over their daughters, their legacy, and their power. As Latifa grew older, her dreams became simpler, more like those of an ordinary person. She wanted the freedom to travel, to learn about the world, to make her own choices. But for her, these simple desires were seen as dangerous. To want something as basic as freedom was viewed as a rebellion against the very family that controlled her. Over time, Latifa learned how to hide her true feelings. On the outside, she wore the mask of the obedient daughter, attending royal functions, smiling for photos, and following every rule. But inside, she was quietly plotting her escape from the life she never chose. For Latifa, the decision to escape wasn't about rejecting wealth or status. It was about breaking free from a life that felt like suffocating, where she was little more than a puppet, with her every move pulled by invisible strings. So, what pushed her to escape? Well, Latifa didn't just wake up one day and decide to escape. Her desire to flee was born from years of living under the heavy weight of suppression, control, and fear. But it wasn't only her own life that pushed her to the brink. It was the haunting memory of what had happened to her sister, Princess Shamsa. Years earlier, Shamsa had dared to do what seemed impossible: escape the royal family's iron grip. She made it all the way to the UK, hoping to carve out a new life for herself, far away from the suffocating walls of the palace. For a brief moment, she tasted freedom. But that taste was bitterly short-lived. Her father's power wasn't confined to Dubai. It reached across continents. Shamsa was snatched from the streets of Cambridge, dragged back to Dubai, and locked away. Latifa never forgot what happened to her sister. Shamsa's abduction was more than just a family secret. It was a warning to everyone. In their father's world, there was no escape. Sheikh Mohammed's power was absolute, and Shamsa's disappearance was a chilling reminder of what happens when anyone dares to defy him. For Latifa, watching her sister vanish into thin air was a turning point. She realized that if she didn't take action, her fate would be the same. Her life, too, would be swallowed by the walls of her father's control. With each passing year, she could feel the grip tightening around her. The palace, which should have been a sanctuary, had become a suffocating prison. The tipping point came when Latifa understood that she only had two choices: risk everything for the chance at freedom, or surrender to a life of captivity. And for her, there was no real choice. She had to fight, for herself, and perhaps for the sister who never got her chance. Latifa's escape wasn't just a random spur-of-the-moment decision. It was the result of 7 long years of meticulous planning, all while keeping her true intentions hidden from her father's ever-watchful eyes and spies. She knew that one wrong move, one slip of the tongue, could cost her not just her freedom, but her life. In February 2018, Latifa finally made her move. She slipped out of Dubai by car, crossed the border into Oman, and boarded a yacht bound for India. With the help of a few trusted friends, she sailed into international waters. For the first time in her life, she felt the thrill of freedom. After years of living in fear, of secretly planning her escape, she was out. She was free. Or so she believed. But freedom is a fragile thing when you live in the shadow of someone as powerful as her father. Less than 2 weeks later, Latifa's brief taste of liberty came to an end. In the dead of the night, commandos stormed the yacht Latifa was on. They were armed and merciless, dragging her out by force. She screamed, kicked, and begged for her life, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. The dreams she had held onto for so long were shattered in an instant. She wasn't treated like a daughter, nor like a human being. She was dragged back to Dubai as if she were a criminal. And the world once again watched in horror as another royal's desperate attempt to break free was ruthlessly crushed. Latifa's escape didn't fail because she wasn't prepared. She had spent years planning every detail, anticipating every obstacle. But what she couldn't overcome was her father's reach. A reach that extends far beyond Dubai. His influence is global, and when his control is threatened, it's as if the world bends to his will. The truth is, Latifa's attempt at freedom wasn't just personal, it was a direct challenge to her father's power. And in his world, that's something he would never tolerate. In Dubai, where the royal family's word is law, Latifa wasn't just disobeying her father, she was rebelling against the entire system that held her, and countless other women, captive. For women like Latifa, freedom isn't simply a dream. It's a dangerous act of defiance. And in a society built on control, no woman, no matter her royal blood, can defy that control without consequences. After her capture, Latifa vanished. For months, there was nothing, no word, no sign of life. The world feared the worst. Had she been silenced forever, locked away like so many others who dared to defy their family? Her father said nothing. The royal family stayed quiet. It was as if she had never existed. When Latifa finally reappeared, she was a shadow of the woman she once was. The vibrant, hopeful princess who had dreamed of freedom was gone. In her place stood someone broken, someone stripped of the fire that once fueled her escape. The world saw her again, but only in carefully staged photos and videos, where every word, every movement was controlled. She was always under watch, her spirit crushed, her message clear. She wasn't free, and she never would be. Despite global outcry, nothing changed. The world cried for justice, but her father's power remained untouchable. I mean, who would want to go against the king of Dubai with all that power and influence? Well, definitely not you and I. So why did Princess Latifa look so broken after she resurfaced? What do you think they did to her while she was in captivity? Thinking of the possibilities alone makes me shiver, and trust the king to be very creative about it. As the world continues to watch, one question remains. Will Latifa ever truly be free? Or will the golden cage of royalty forever keep its hold on her, as it has done to so many others before her? Well, what do you think? Join the discussion and tell us your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for some more videos like this. Stay tuned!